It was a cold Christmas morning, and the Thompson family had gathered around the tree, their faces illuminated by the soft glow of the Christmas lights. The room was filled with laughter as the children eagerly tore through the brightly wrapped presents, their excitement contagious. The smell of gingerbread cookies and pine filled the air, a perfect holiday scene. But amidst all the joy, something unusual was about to unfold. In the corner of the room, a small drone buzzed quietly, hovering just out of sight. Its sleek black body was practically invisible against the backdrop of holiday decorations. At first, no one noticed it. They were too caught up in the moment, too absorbed in the laughter and chatter. But then, it moved. The drone darted quickly through the open window, entering the living room with a soft whirring sound. It was barely noticeable at first, flying over the heads of the family members, capturing the festivities in a way no one expected. For a moment, the drone was simply another piece of the holiday chaos, an unnoticed intruder. But then, things began to get strange. Olivia Thompson, the youngest of the family, was the first to notice something was wrong. She looked up from the new doll she had just unwrapped and caught sight of the small black device moving through the room. At first, she thought it was a new toy or part of a prank, but when the drone flew closer, her confusion turned to alarm. She wasn't the only one who saw it now. The room fell silent as the family members began to notice the strange presence in their midst. "Is that a drone?" Olivia's older brother, Ethan, asked, his voice laced with concern. The others looked up, their smiles fading into confused frowns. They watched as the drone hovered in the center of the room, silently recording everything. "Who sent that?" Olivia's father, Mr. Thompson, asked, his voice stern. "Is someone filming us?" But there was no answer. The drone didn't respond to his questions. It simply hovered, moving in and out of the frame, its small red light blinking occasionally as it captured the family in what was supposed to be a private moment. Olivia's mother, Mrs. Thompson, stood up, trying to wave the drone away. But it didn't budge. Instead, it moved closer to her, almost as though it were studying her, its camera lens focused on her face. She took a step back, feeling a chill run down her spine. Something wasn't right. The drone began to circle the family, its movements slow but deliberate. It seemed to be taking in every detail, every gift, every smile, every moment of joy. It was as if it were gathering data, creating a record of the holiday, but for what purpose? After several tense moments, Mr. Thompson reached for his phone, trying to call the police. But as soon as he unlocked it, the drone stopped. It hovered for a moment, then flew out of the room through the open window, disappearing into the sky as quickly as it had come. The family stood in stunned silence. The laughter and excitement that had filled the room moments ago were now replaced with a sense of unease. The drone had left as quickly as it had appeared, but its presence had left a mark on the Thompson family's Christmas. The rest of the day was filled with questions. What was the drone doing there? Who had sent it? And most importantly, what had it been recording? Olivia's mother insisted that they review the footage, but when they tried to access the home security system, they found that all the cameras had been disabled. The only thing left was the video the drone had captured, and no one knew what it contained. The next day, Mr. Thompson contacted the authorities, but they had no answers. There were no signs of anyone entering the house, no clues to explain the drone's sudden appearance. It was as if it had simply materialized out of thin air. As the days passed, the family began to feel the weight of the situation. They tried to move on with their lives, but every time they glanced out the window or heard a buzzing sound in the distance, their hearts skipped a beat. The drone was still out there, and it was watching them. Olivia couldn't shake the feeling that the drone had been sent for a reason. It wasn't just a random occurrence. It had been purposeful. Someone had been watching them, recording their every move, and the question remained, What had they been recording? The mystery only deepened when they discovered the footage. It wasn't just a simple recording of their Christmas celebrations. It was something far more chilling. The camera had captured moments that no one in the family had seen. It had recorded snippets of conversations, fragments of interactions that seemed too private, too personal. And as Olivia replayed the footage, she realized something even more unsettling. The drone had captured something else. Something that didn't make sense. Someone had been in the house, standing just out of frame, watching them all along. But who? The next few days were filled with confusion and unease. The Thompson family tried to return to their normal holiday routines, but the memory of the drone's invasion lingered, hanging over them like a dark cloud. Olivia couldn't stop thinking about the footage, about what the drone had captured. Who could have sent it? Why had they been watching the family so closely? And, more troubling still, what had they seen? Olivia had spent hours reviewing the video footage, hoping for a clue, but each time she watched, she felt a growing sense of dread. It wasn't just the private moments the drone had captured. It was the feeling that someone, or something, was watching them from the shadows. The family decided to take action. Mr. Thompson called the authorities again, but they had no answers. There were no signs of forced entry, no indication of anyone being in the house. The police suggested it might have been some sort of prank, but the family knew better. This wasn't just a prank. The drone had been recording with a purpose. Dr. Alice Matthews, a local cybersecurity expert, was the next person they turned to. After hearing the family's story, she agreed to come over and analyze the footage. Olivia and her parents gathered around the TV, their nerves tight as Dr. Matthews loaded the video onto the screen. "I'm afraid I have some bad news," Dr. Matthews said after watching for a few minutes. "This isn't just a toy drone. This is an advanced piece of equipment, likely military-grade technology." Olivia's heart skipped a beat. Military-grade? How could that be? Dr. Matthews continued. "This drone is capable of recording in full HD and has access to a very sophisticated camera system. There's no doubt it's been programmed to capture specific data." "What kind of data?" Mr. Thompson asked, his voice strained. Dr. Matthews paused, taking a deep breath. "The footage shows far more than what you've seen. It's clear that the drone was scanning your home, tracking the family's movements, monitoring your conversations. But it doesn't end there." The family's eyes widened in disbelief. What had the drone been capturing that was so important? Dr. Matthews rewound the footage, stopping at a specific moment. "Look here," she said, pointing at the screen. "This frame. You can see the drone moving into the corner of the room, just after the family started opening presents. Notice how it doesn't just hover. It moves in a calculated path. It's almost as if it was anticipating the events that were about to unfold." Olivia felt a shiver run down her spine. The footage clearly showed that the drone was more than just a passive observer. It was actively engaging with the environment, adjusting its movements as if it were reacting to something. But what was it reacting to? Dr. Matthews fast-forwarded the footage, stopping again when something caught her attention. "Look at this," she said, zooming in on a frame. The image was blurry, but there was something distinctly unusual about the shape moving in the background. "What is that?" Olivia's mother asked, leaning in closer. Dr. Matthews squinted at the screen, her brow furrowed. "It looks like a person. But no one was there during the celebration, was there?" The family exchanged nervous glances. No one had been there. They were sure of it. The house had been empty except for them. As the footage continued to unfold, the family began to realize something far more disturbing. The drone had been recording them, but it had also captured something else, something they couldn't explain. Every time the family moved, the drone moved. Every time they interacted, the drone recorded. It was as though the drone wasn't just observing, they were being studied. "Whoever sent this drone," Dr. Matthews said slowly, "has been following you. They've been watching your every move." Olivia's hands trembled as she replayed the footage. She knew, deep down, that this wasn't a simple case of a malfunctioning drone. Whoever was behind this had been tracking their every move, and it wasn't just about capturing family moments. There was something more sinister at play. The question remained, who had sent it, and why? As the family discussed their options, Olivia couldn't shake the feeling that someone was still watching them. Every time she looked out the window or heard the buzz of a distant drone, her stomach churned. The feeling of being observed never left. Dr. Matthews continued to analyze the footage, her expression darkening. "This is highly unusual. Whoever is behind this drone knows more than they should. They know your routines, your habits, your personal life. It's almost like they've been studying you for months." Olivia's mind raced as she recalled strange events leading up to that Christmas. Little things that didn't seem to make sense, an odd conversation she'd overheard, a shadow in the distance, a sense of being followed. Could it all be connected? Olivia turned to her parents. "We have to find out who did this," she said, her voice shaking. "We have to know why they were watching us." The family had no answers, but one thing was clear. The drone was only the beginning. The mystery was far deeper than they ever could have imagined. The Thompson family had barely begun to recover from the shock of the drone invasion when things took an even darker turn. The footage Dr. Matthews had analyzed was unsettling enough, but the more they tried to piece together the fragments of that strange Christmas morning, the more questions arose. The drone had captured moments they hadn't even noticed, strange, unexplained events that seemed to make no sense. Olivia couldn't help but feel that they were being drawn into something far bigger than a simple surveillance incident. Whoever had sent the drone was watching them, and it wasn't just for fun. There was an agenda, and she was beginning to feel that they were only seeing the tip of the iceberg. Dr. Matthews had gone through the footage over and over, but she kept coming back to the same question. Why had the drone been recording them? What was it after? "I've never seen anything like this before," Dr. Matthews said one afternoon, her voice tense. "This isn't just about collecting data. It's as if the drone is part of a larger plan, something we can't see yet." The family sat in stunned silence. What did that mean? Dr. Matthews continued, her expression serious. "I've been researching drones like this one, and I think I've found something disturbing." She paused, looking around at the Thompson family, then lowered her voice. "I believe this drone is part of a covert surveillance program. It's not just a random incident." The room grew colder as Dr. Matthews spoke. "This technology has been used by organizations that operate in the shadows, military groups, intelligence agencies, and other covert entities. But there's one thing that stands out. The footage shows that the drone was programmed to gather information about you, specifically, the family dynamics. It was watching how you interacted, how you behaved. It's almost like it was studying your emotions." Olivia felt her stomach drop. Was this really happening? "What are you saying?" Mr. Thompson asked, his voice tight with suspicion. "That we're being targeted? For what reason?" Dr. Matthews nodded slowly. "I don't know yet. But what I do know is that whoever is behind this drone has been watching your family. They've been studying your interactions, your relationships, and your habits. And the more I look at this footage, the more I realize that this is far from over." Just as the family began to process the new revelation, Olivia's phone buzzed. She glanced down at the screen, her heart skipping a beat when she saw the message. It was from an unknown number. "Are you ready to see what we've been watching?" The message read. Olivia's blood ran cold. Who was this? Was it connected to the drone? And how had they gotten her phone number? The message was followed by a video attachment. Her hands shaking, Olivia clicked on the video. The screen blinked to life, showing a grainy, black-and-white footage of the Thompson family's living room. But it wasn't from the drone. This was from inside the house. The video showed the family, but the figures were distorted, blurred, like the footage had been altered somehow. The images flickered in and out, and Olivia could barely make out what was happening. But there, in the corner of the video, was something that caught her eye, a dark figure standing just out of frame. It was watching them. "Who is this?" Olivia whispered, her voice trembling. The video ended abruptly. A new message popped up on her phone. "I hope you understand now. There's nowhere to hide. We've been watching you for a long time." Olivia looked at her parents, her face pale with fear. "This isn't just a prank," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "We're being watched. And they know everything." The room fell into silence. Dr. Matthews had been right. They were no longer just dealing with a rogue drone. They were dealing with something far more sinister, a force that had been tracking them, studying them, long before the Christmas morning incident. Olivia's parents were in shock, unable to comprehend the full extent of the situation. But Olivia's mind was racing. Who was behind this? What did they want? And why had they targeted her family? The video was a warning, a threat. But the question remained, what were they going to do about it? As the days passed, the fear continued to grow. Olivia kept the phone locked, unsure of who might be watching her messages or tracking her every move. She couldn't go to the police. Who would believe her? And if Dr. Matthews was right, they were dealing with something far beyond their control. But Olivia couldn't back down. She had to find out the truth, even if it meant uncovering secrets that no one should ever know. That night, Olivia couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about the figure in the video, standing just out of frame. Who had been watching them all along? And more importantly, what were they planning next? The answers felt just beyond her reach, but Olivia knew one thing for certain. The drone wasn't done yet. Whoever was behind, it was just getting started. The days that followed were filled with fear and paranoia. Olivia couldn't shake the feeling that the drone, and the mysterious figures behind it, were still watching her. She had replayed the footage from the drone and the strange video of the figure lurking in the shadows of the house over and over, but the answers remained just out of reach. The truth felt like it was lurking in the corners of her mind, waiting to be uncovered, but she was terrified of what it might be. Dr. Matthews continued her research, but she couldn't offer any solid answers. She had confirmed that the drone was part of a covert surveillance program, but beyond that, the investigation had stalled. There were no leads, no clues about who was behind the drone or why they were watching the Thompson family so closely. One evening, Olivia received another message. This time, there was no video attached, just a single line of text. "We know what you're looking for." It sent a chill down Olivia's spine. Who was behind this? How did they know what she was trying to uncover? She quickly shared the message with her parents and Dr. Matthews. The air in the room grew thick with tension. The family was trapped in a web of mystery they couldn't escape from, with no answers in sight. As Olivia sat there, feeling the weight of the unknown pressing down on her, she made a decision. She had to confront this head-on. She couldn't keep running from the truth, no matter how terrifying it was. The next day, Dr. Matthews came over again, but this time she had news. "I've been digging deeper," Dr. Matthews said, her voice low. "I found something." Olivia's heart skipped a beat. "What did you find?" Dr. Matthews hesitated. I've been looking into the origins of the drone, trying to trace its path. And I've discovered something disturbing. The drone wasn't just a random piece of technology. It was connected to a series of surveillance operations tied to a larger network. This isn't just a case of a rogue drone. It's part of something much bigger. Something dangerous. Olivia felt a sense of dread fill her chest. What does that mean? Who's behind this? Dr. Matthews looked at her gravely. The footage you saw, the figure in the background of the video, wasn't just a person. It was someone connected to the operation. Someone who's been tracking your family for a long time. What do you mean, tracking us for a long time? Mr. Thompson asked, his voice strained. Dr. Matthews sat down, her face pale. I found records. They go back years. These weren't just random surveillance missions. They were studying your family, your routines, your relationships. And it's not just your family. There are dozens of others, all being watched in the same way. It's part of a larger, more insidious network. Olivia felt her stomach churn. What was happening to her family? Why had they been targeted? Dr. Matthews continued. This isn't just about gathering data. This is an experiment. They're testing something bigger than we can even understand. And I think your family is at the center of it. Olivia stared at Dr. Matthews in disbelief. The room seemed to close in on her as she tried to make sense of what was being said. Why us? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Why was our family chosen? Dr. Matthews stood up, pacing the room. I don't know. But I think it's time we found out. We can't just sit here and wait for them to make the next move. We have to take action. We have to confront whoever is behind this and get to the bottom of it. The family knew they couldn't wait any longer. They had to act. But as Olivia stared at the screen, the mystery grew darker and more dangerous. The footage from the drone had captured their every move, every interaction. But now, as the family braced themselves for the truth, they realized something else. The people behind this weren't just watching them. They were in control. And they were coming for them. The family made plans to confront the unknown force behind the drone, but they knew it wouldn't be easy. There were forces at play that they couldn't fully comprehend. But one thing was certain. They would fight to uncover the truth, no matter the cost. As Olivia stared at the drone's video one last time, she couldn't help but wonder, would they ever find the answers they were searching for? Or were they already too deep into a game they didn't fully understand? And, more importantly, could they stop the forces that were controlling their every move before it was too late? The truth, it seemed, was more elusive than ever.